Hey everybody, Jeff here, and continuing on in our analysis here of the Champlain Towers condo collapse in Miami. Man, has it been an unbelievable busy last couple of weeks. A lot of new developments, leaked photos, billion-dollar settlements. There's been several paradigm shifts. There's so much going on right now, I don't even have enough to fit it all in one video. So we're going to do this video today, and then the rest of the topics, like the billion-dollar settlement, we're going to cover in the next video, along with some other interesting analysis for you as well. So let's hop right in. Okay, so I want to show you this article that the Miami Herald released last week. They published this, and they've actually updated it a couple of times because they added more stuff to it. Essentially, here's what happened, and this is a great coup on their part. I'll put a link to this article down below for you so you can go check it out and read it for yourself. It's definitely some really good reading. Now, what happened is the property manager of the Champlain Towers South was walking the property every day leading up to when it collapsed. And he was taking pictures of different things that he saw just to have in case something went wrong. And this is brand new evidence that we're seeing. So he actually took these pictures here 2 weeks before the condo collapsed. This is 2 weeks before the Champlain Towers condominium came crashing down to the ground. So he moved the trash can out of the way because he sees this long horizontal crack here on this wall, which is part concrete block, probably a couple of layers, and then the rest is poured. That the top picture was taken in April 2020. Look, nothing there. It looks reasonably clean and intact. But then if you look here in basically a year later, you can see this separation. And there's the building manager there, Scott Stewart. He's pointing to the cracks there. Okay, so where is all this located? Well, the Herald shows you right here. So here's the pool deck, and right here is that planter that he's talking about right there. The crack is right there where the arrow is pointing, right in the center of that circle. Now, right over here is the other planter. This was Sarah Nair's apartment right here on the first floor. This is the 111, what we call the 11 stack here. And so this is where my column M11.1 is, the one that the famous one that you guys have seen me mention all the time. This is the one that I think fell first. And this is the one that I showed in September that I think I proved from the tourist video that was shot from the north side of the building looking down the ramp in the garage underneath this planter, and showed that M11.1 here was missing. So more and more again, we keep narrowing our focus into this area right here as another potential area where the collapse may have started, or at least the collapse of the pool deck. Now, some people think that it started here along the south wall because of the building of the 87 part condo next door. So the Miami Herald shows here a zoomed in portion of this planter wall here on the pool deck of the Champlain Towers South condominium. And so you can see it looks like about, I don't know, maybe about 2 inches or so vertical displacement there. Put a link over to Josh Porter's analysis on this over on his channel, Building Integrity. So he's got a great channel, does a lot of great analysis also. And on there, he said there's probably some sagging going on down, that like the engineers, this was brought to the Morabito's attention. And from what we can tell, supposedly they didn't do anything. And everybody's saying, including Josh, that they should have gone underneath the garage and looked up from below. I mean, it's kind of shocking that they didn't. And I'll tell you what, even when I do a lot of remodeling in my condo units here and other properties, think of this as when you're tiling and you have tiles that show up at 2 different levels like this. It was uneven, and then we call it lippage. In lippage, you get when you have an uneven subfloor or something's wrong on your subfloor down below. Like maybe you have a sloped floor that's sagging downward. We see that all the time a lot. Like I just did a bathroom where I had to pour self-leveling concrete to level the floor up. Otherwise, I would end up with lippage like this. And so when you end up with lippage like this, you have to go look down below at your subfloor. In this case, the slab. What's happening to the slab that caused this thing to sink? This can't just sink unless something below it sank. So that's why I think they should have gone down below this and looked to see what was going on. There's a 2-inch displacement going on somewhere, and I'm willing to bet you would have seen it downstairs. The only other possibility could be that, okay, there's sand under all of these pavers. Maybe some of the sand eroded away and maybe it sank a little bit. It's not related to the collapse of the building at all. Well, we don't know. I happen to think that this pool deck was sagging. So this was already a major development. But then the Herald went and added another picture that they scored for us. So I don't know how the Herald got this photo, but they got it from Morabito Consultants, I guess, or roundabout way. I would love to see all of the pictures that Morabito shot and, the original files, not just, compressed like this on a web page or something. But here you're seeing here, they're looking at column number 76. This photo was taken in November 2020, 7 months or so before the collapse. And they're standing down on the garage and they're facing north. Here's the ramp. So this is column for space number 76. And I'll show you where it is on the map in a second, but it's basically 2 columns away from the bottom of the ramp. See the 14 here for space number 14 right there. But look at this column. If you look at all the stalactites that are forming on the ceiling, there is just a lot of moisture all over the place there. You've got paint peeling on the ceiling here, and you have evidence of water, and there's rust right there, meaning there's probably exposed rebar somewhere close by there, and all of this water has just been consistently running down this column. That's bad. You should never see anything like this ever. Here, let me zoom in on it a little closer to see if we can get any more detail. That's about as good as we can see. So it looks to me like the paint is just covered with all of the, I don't know if that's the calcium carbonate or whatever it is, the stuff that oozes out of there, and it's probably covering the letters there. So let's take a look at where it is. All right, so if you remember back in July, I did that video in analyzing our friend Fiorella Terenzi's video walkthrough of the garage here. Remember, she was walking through the garage trying to find her parking space for a unit that she was interested in buying, and it turns out her space was over here, number 17. What I did was I went through her video piece by piece, second by second, and wherever I saw puddles on the floor at that time, you recall I had placed all of these little blue ovals here, and then these red striped rectangles here represent the corrugated plastic sheets that the homeowners association had attached to the ceiling wherever there was major leaks coming through. So this gives you a better idea of where all of those leaks were, right? And then this big blue circle right here is another one that I think a lot of people have forgotten about this. So let me refresh your memory on this one. So back a few days after the collapse, this was back in June 28th, the Insider published this article here about standing water found beneath the condo in a certain spot that was seen by the pool contractor who took photos of the damage. But it turns out they actually got their info, I think, from a Miami Herald article. Okay, so it says here, 2 days before the condo collapsed, the pool contractor photographed this damage. This was in the pool pump room and all that. Now, we already have long determined that we don't think any of that had anything to do with the collapse because, I mean, look, the pool was still standing the next morning, and the water was even blue too after the collapse. But something interesting that it mentions on here, I'm going to show you something here of what the contractor said. This is what the pool contractor said. The deepest puddle of standing water was located around parking spot 78, an area that building plans show is located directly under where, of course, Morabito's major report that we all have seen a million times flagged a major error in the original design there. So that means if I come back here, that's why I originally put that circle there back in July, because I had remembered that he said that there was a puddle around space 78. Okay, so just remember that. And that column that I just showed you was column number 76. And see how I put a little puddle around there too? And I think that's because in Fiorella's video, right when the guy was walking, he was walking around the vestibule area from here, and he was walking right smack dab along this route right here, along this line, and you could see off to his right was the column here for space number 76, and I could see puddles of water on the floor there. Okay, so let me show you what he's doing here. So they're walking by the vestibule area. Now they're sneaking around the south side of that vestibule, and now they're in between the spaces. Now watch this, I want to show you something right there. Let me stop it right there. You see that puddle of water? It's 3 spaces in from the road. This is where the ramp is down this road. So I'll show you on the drawing here. See, here's the ramp road that I told you about. 3 spaces in, that puts it in space number 74, and that's why I put that big dark blue oval right here in the drawing, if you look on my map. And that coincides with the spot where the pool guy said he saw something in space number 78, a puddle. So that's kind of interesting that a year before the pool guy was here, this puddle is here in that same spot. So they've had that same puddling in that same spot around space number 78 for at least a year that we know of. So here we are back at the video. And so this is space 78 right over here where the covered car is. Gee, I wonder why that car is covered. See how everything seems to be adding up here? because they know that car keeps getting rained on or whatever, wherever this water is coming from. So you have this puddle here. Now, let me step you further through here and watch where he walks now. I'm going to try to stop it right. Let me see if I get a clearer shot of it. Okay, so right here just shows it perfectly clear. This right here is that column for space number 76. He's about to enter space number 76. But look at this puddle that's completely surrounding the bottom of the column. Of all the puddles that we saw in Fiorilla's video, this was the only one that showed it, and lots of water too. Not just a little, but it's puddling around the bottom of this column right here. And I don't know if this in the middle is from it. Sometimes I've seen in garages when they have a leak, like the one in the Fort Lauderdale Marriott that I showed you in my video back in, I think, August. And it showed all of the leaks they had in their garage. But sometimes it'll form a little river that leads and creates more of a puddle over here. So I don't know if this is dripping from straight above or if it came from over here, but a lot of water is coming from this column here, column number 76. And if you look up above, you're going to see the shield. There's a shield over here somewhere. I believe this is one right here, see, to redirect some of the dripping that was landing over here on the cars. So there's a lot of action going on here right now with the water puddling. So that's what I did. I basically took Fiorilla's video, and you all saw this back in July, and I just plotted all of these, and here's that big blue dot that I put around column number 76 at the time, because I was very suspicious, and a lot of you had pointed that out to us anyway, that you all had seen that too. I was getting numerous comments at that time back in July. Jeff, did you see all that water around the bottom of that column? Yeah, we did. And then here's that shield that I just showed you right here. So everything keeps pointing to this little area right here that makes you go, Okay, now how about this for a theory? And let us know down in the comments whether you agree with this theory that I have here. So back in July, I did another video here that showed my theories of how the pool deck could have cracked, and I showed how when they came in and added this layer of sand to the pool deck on top of the concrete slab for the pool deck, and then they added these paver bricks on top, I showed how whenever it rains, all the water will come down and it'll soak up into that, 1.5 or 2 inches of sand that they have below these pavers, plus the height of the pavers. That's a lot of water, and water weighs 8.3 pounds per gallon. And just think, every time it rains, all of that weight is forcing its way down on this slab, right? So you're going to have compression on the top, you're going to have tension on the bottom, and possibly a sagging slab, right? You follow me what's going on here right now? And it can take days for this to dry out, and you'll still have this damp sand still holding moisture and weight. But what happens is it's heaviest right after it rains, and then as it evaporates, the slab comes back up a little, right? Next time it rains, what happens? The slab maybe goes back down again, deflects again a little more. And remember, over 40 years or so, it's been doing this up and down, almost like a slow motion trampoline effect here. Up and down like this. And the slab wasn't meant to do that. It was meant to be still and not have too much of a dynamic load on it. Maybe some people having a party. But I'm sure when the architect designed this, he had no idea they were going to come in years later and put in all this sand and pavers. So just imagine this thing deflecting up and down with that rain cycle, right? And in Florida, man, it rains almost every afternoon in the summer. And just remember this thing going up and down, causing more and more deflection each time. So what do you think? Do you think that's potential root cause here? It's certainly a stressor, in my opinion. And keep in mind that at the same time the slab is doing this, the slab is going up and down and deflecting. At night, when the temperature's cool, what do you think happens? Everything shrinks. It all comes together and shrinks. And then the next day, when the sun comes out and it gets brutally hot, you can't go out on these pool decks without wearing sandals because you'll burn the heck out of your feet. It's like brutally hot. So you got all of this expansion and contraction going on with the concrete at the same time that it's going up and down like this every time it rains and evaporates and rains and evaporates. So that's one of the theories that I've been thinking about here that could possibly cause that vertical displacement along that planter there, because it is almost smack dab near the edge of the pool deck, well, with a lot of downward forces acting on it. Okay, so now we're going to show you something interesting here and pretty cool, I think, of the inside of unit number 611. And this was owned by this woman here, who was Maria Iliana Monteagudo. She bought this unit in December of 2020, about 6 months before the condominium collapsed. Maria has the distinction of being the last person to actually escape out of the building right before it collapsed. And what makes it so fascinating is she has given us some really good details. So this came out on June 29th. Let's take a look at what was going on inside her condominium and try to piece together which columns we think failed first based on what she was seeing inside her condo. So in the interview, Maria said that she was in her unit 611. She got woken up based on what we can get together from the timeline from Maud's spreadsheet here, that it was about 1:15 a.m. So this is 7 minutes before the collapse. Maria said that she was waken up by noises, goes to the living room, hears noises, and tries to close the sliding glass door, which by now has gone out of square, and she hears a crack and sees a 2-inch wide crack run down her living room wall. The only thing we don't know right now is which wall was it, so that's why we want to take a look. And so bam, here you are right here looking inside her living room. This is a 360 view inside her living room. This was used as the from the MLS listing, I guess you could call it, was used to sell her this condo. So this listing was online. This is probably what attracted her to the unit to begin with, and it shows you everything inside the unit, and then you can also step outside the patio and look down onto the pool deck. And here's that kind of little bit of sagging that everybody's been talking about on the south wall right here. I'm not so sure whether or not that necessarily means there's something wrong, or as to whether it was shaped this way to slope the water down here towards this drain. You see, just because you see sagging of these bricks here, I don't think necessarily it guarantees you that that means this is ripping off the wall and that this whole thing is slumping here. We don't have any concrete data that would back us up on that. But anyway, that's her view from her unit. So yeah, you could see why she bought this place. Actually, on this side of the living room, there's 2 columns. If I step right over here, see this jut out right here? This is one column, and the other one should be back in this corner right by the sliding glass doors. Let's see if we can get over there. There's the other one. This is much more pronounced. So here's the other column that we're looking at. Okay, so to give you an idea of where her condominium is located, here's the pool deck area of the Champlain Towers South condominium, and she's right here on the 6th floor in 611. And remember, this is what we call the 11 stack, where a lot of interesting stuff has occurred here. This is her unit right here, and right above it in 711 is where that famous ring video was taken, and then down here on 111 is where Sarah Nur and her 2 kids escaped approximately 2 minutes before the building collapsed. They ran down the lobby and out the front door, and they were out on Collins Avenue and already on 911 with the fire department when the building collapsed. Right. So now we are looking here at the original 1979 floor plan. This is page 21 out of 336, which shows a typical floor plan for floors 2 through 12. So this shows where the columns are so that we can go back now and look for them in the living room. So here's that one I showed you that was on the corner by the sliding glass door. Here's the one that I showed you up to the left side of her bookshelf that was sticking out of the wall a little bit. She has another one in the closet in the hall. This is the guest bedroom, and there's one just to the left side of the window, and then here's her master bedroom where she was asleep, and there's one in her closet and one at the end of the corner here of her master bedroom. So she said she was asleep here and probably about 1:15 according to Maud's spreadsheet. Gets up, comes around in here, comes over, sees the sliders open, tries to close them, and they won't close. There's something wrong with them. And then she sees the hole ripping up in the living room wall. Well, it could be this wall. It could be this wall. So how do we know which one it is? Well, we'll get a clue here by looking at which one of these columns we're talking about. Okay, so at 4 columns over, this puts us at M and 9.1 over here. So we are at column M 9.1 is the one that's in the corner of her living room. So that gives us a good reference point. And just remember, the next column south of the building, this column that goes all the way up here by the corner of the sliders, is M 9.1 on the southern edge of the building, and M 11.1, which is the column that I've been saying is the one that failed all along, is underneath this planter. The Miami Herald photos that we talked about earlier are on this planter right here, and there's that trash can that was next to the planter. So the cracks that they showed were right here on this planter. So you can see how close everything is related. Okay, so here we we are again back in Maria's bedroom, and if you look closely back in the corner, they've got mirrors here covering that column. So this column right here is K. So she gets woken up at 1:15 in the morning, comes running down the hall here, hears the noises, runs down past the kitchen here, turns the corner here and comes into the living room and sees the sliders are open, and let's go over and see about closing those sliders. Now here's that other column. This would be column M8, and that column that I showed you over here in the corner of her master bedroom right over here, pretty much in the center of your screen, was K10. This was column number K. Okay, so now we have our bearings, and we know there's a column right there. You can see it sticking up over her wall unit, and there's another column there. M8, M10. We know the building gets its support from the columns. This one here and this one here. If something was going to fail first, which one of these two columns do you think would fail first? Well, it would be this column here, I would think, because if the pool deck is out here falling apart, it's going to pull on the south side first. And sure enough, when you look at that security camera footage from the building next door, 87 Park, it shows that the southern edge of the building appeared to collapse first. So that's this wall is that southern edge. So my money says this column was the first thing failing. I think when Maria was standing in this living room here, looking out these sliders, I think she saw over here. Now, I could be wrong, but there's nothing over here. But that could also be the reason why maybe she would have seen a crack over here, too, because there was no support over here. But I firmly believe that this building was already collapsing, and she was in the middle of the collapse and didn't know it. And the only thing holding it up at this point was it was just waiting for these columns to buckle. Collapse had already started. So at this point, she ran, grabbed her keys, credit cards, whatever, and ran out the door. Now, this is why Maria is a miracle woman here, because God definitely was watching out for her, this woman on this night. She was so new to the building, she didn't quite know everything yet. She runs out of her door here, doesn't know that there's a staircase right here. That's what I would have done. I would have found the nearest staircase and gone down the staircase. So she turns out and goes the way she knows, which is what most people do, like in a fire. So she comes down the corridor, she turns here, goes by the elevators, and is smart enough not to get in the elevators, and instead goes into this staircase right here. And this is all right next to the shear wall. So this whole part of the building over here on the right side of the shear wall is what collapsed while she was in this staircase. You're telling me God wasn't looking out for her at that moment? I mean, what a miracle. Yeah, Maria was the luckiest person in Miami on that day. And it just reminds me of this event back in 1990 during Desert Storm, where General Schwarzkopf was telling us about this guy that was just seconds away from dying. He was driving his car across a bridge when a bomb dropped behind it.
I'm now going to show you a picture of the luckiest man in Iraq. Keep your eye on the crosshairs right there. Look at here. Right through the crosshairs. And now in his rearview mirror.
Now, you remember back in August when I uploaded that video on the police body cams where I analyzed everything that was going on, and you remember what I showed you, right? So you remember I was the first person of anybody to show you what happened when the police arrived. Here you are at 1:26 a.m. This was our very first view of the security guard, Shamoka Furman, because everybody asked where was she, or some people said she took off, and no, she didn't. She was down on the rubble here rescuing people. And this lady that she was rescued by her is that lady, Maria Iliana Monteagudo. Did not know it at that time in August, but later on, after hearing more interviews and articles, we found out that this was the lady that the security guard had rescued when she got down underneath the pool deck into the garage area that had collapsed after emerging from that staircase. All right, now let's take a quick look in the guest bedroom. I want to see that other column in there. This closet door is closed. That's where there's another column. So when you emerge into the guest bedroom, there's the other column here, right up against the window. That's this column right here. And don't go by these screwy numbers. This was I don't know if it was a mistake the architect made, but it was one of my complaints early on that he was inconsistent with his labeling and numbering, because later on, like this 13 is going to change to, it changes to 10. See that? Yeah, so that column is column L10. This is L10 in the guest bedroom and K10 in the master bedroom. And man, I wish I could get a hold of Maria. I wish I could have a one-on-one sit down with with her to find out where it was that she saw the crack, but my money says that it happened on this wall right here. I think most of the damage was starting to happen right along this wall. It could have been this column, it could have been the one in the guest bedroom that caused the drywall here to start cracking, but that's my bet right there. Yeah, so I think that Maria Monteagudo is alive by 30 seconds right now. That was it. If she had left her unit 30 seconds later, she would have been dead. So that's a lot of wild new information, huh? So on the next video, what we're going to cover is we're going to finally talk about that $1 billion settlement. Where did it come from? How's the breakdown on it? Why is it so high? Why did they settle so early? I'm also going to give you a NIST update on the investigation and how it's coming along. We're going to look at the south wall there by the pool deck and examine all of the talk that people have been going through over the past few months to see, was that south wall really part of the problem? And I'm also going to show you exclusive video of the current status of the site. I went down there a few weeks ago and shot some video showing you what's currently going on down there. And lost audio recordings? Are you kidding me? Man, that is just going to send all of the conspiracy people going nuts. So stay tuned for the next video, folks. Thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll see you on the next one.